Okay, so what were those controversies? What was the conflict between the ideals of citizenship and the reality of citizenship? Well, it was what was said in the Constitution and the Declaration versus what was the practice of citizenship going back, some odd thousand years back to the time, of Aristotle and Socrates and the Greeks who first articulated what a responsible citizen was and what a responsible citizen would do. So almost immediately, as the Constitution, as the new country is developing and stabilizing, there's this conflict between the ideals and reality. And the institution of citizenship begins to evolve immediately. Remember what an institution is. An institution is simply the informal norms, rules, procedures, customs that are embedded in the organizational structure of society. So the extent to which citizenship is one of the important organizational structures in society, it as an institution begins to evolve. The informal and formal norms and rules begin to evolve, and they first evolved by expanding the right to vote to working men, not just property-owning men, and that takes a little bit of time because it happens at a state-by-state level, and so it takes multiple decades for that to happen across the states. And then the Civil War ultimately is about about slavery, but at the end of the Civil War, it's about citizenship, and the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments grant citizenship rights to freed slaves, to former slaves. And then it's about women. And in the early part of the last 20th century, women are granted the right to vote, meaning they're granted full citizenship. And then in the 1970s, young people, 18, 19, and 20, are granted the right to vote. They're granted full citizenship rights. And so as this argument's taking place, right, as the contradiction between the practice of citizenship and the reality, the practice of citizenship and the ideals embedded in the Constitution and the Declaration, as that conflict plays out, the argument becomes an argument of rights, right? So why can't I have the right to vote just because I'm not a property owner? Why can't I have the right to vote because I'm a woman? Why can't slavery be ended and slaves be given the right to vote? Why can't young people vote? And so because the argument is framed, and we're talking about a societal level argument that takes place over 200 years, because the argument is framed in the context of this document, the Declaration, gives me rights, why can't I have them? This document says I'm politically equal to you. This document says that I should be treated politically and legally equal to you. Why can't that happen? The institution of citizenship comes to take on the character of that debate. And as the practice of restricted citizenship gives way to the ideals of a more expansive citizenship as spelled out in the Declaration and the Constitution, those informal norms, procedures, and routines begin to evolve so that citizenship becomes a grant of membership, rights that you have by being a member. What do we mean by being a member? Well, if you're a legal citizen, then you have certain rights that come with that. So as an American citizen, I have certain rights that come with being an American citizen that a non-citizen doesn't have. The most important of those rights is the right to vote, but there are other benefits that come with it. And so citizenship takes on a legal status with no obligations, right? So since citizenship was defined informally early on as something that only people who could carry out the duties and responsibilities had, as that form of citizenship gets pushed back on and loses out, the idea of obligations and duties also gets pushed to the background, right? And so today, literally, we think about our citizenship as a right, not as a duty or an obligation, mostly. And so in what way do we think about our citizenship as a duty and obligation still? Well, through our educational system and through society, we're encouraged to be good citizens. So we recognize the difference between a good citizen and a bad citizen, right? Good citizens vote. Good citizens volunteer. Good citizens take an interest in a role in their communities. When I go vote and I get the little sticker that says put on my chest that says I voted, I feel proud of that. I wear it around all day. What am I doing? I'm saying I'm a good citizen. I don't have to do any of that though. I'm encouraged to do that through the socialization process that I get mainly from the school system. Some of us get it through our parents. Some of us get it through the media, but it's mostly the school system. The bottom line is citizenship has evolved over a 200-year period. The institution has evolved so that now rather than encouraging duties and obligations like it originally did, it encourages us to think about our citizenship in the context of rights more than duties. So it's more self-interested now, and it encourages a more self-interested motivation now. And in the original conception of it, in the early part of the country's history, it encouraged a civic duty-oriented motivation.